A couple of days ago, I made this fast 4x4 shutter door with help from Riddle Me This and Sacredredstone. It closes in 0.5 seconds and opens in 0.6 seconds. At 264 blocks, it's the smallest for its size, which makes it quite a good candidate for one of the best 4x4s. To build this door, you're going to need the items in this chest. These quartz blocks are just any door block. 16 of them are for the door and 16 are for the hallway, but I just have them as the same block. This is just any type of wiring, and this is just like a transparent block, like a slab or glass or something. Now to start off, find your middle two blocks and go up 3. This is where your 4x4 frame is going to be, which is 3 blocks from the wall and 3 blocks from the bottom. So you start off with a single piston there, double there, single, and then repeat this for every side alternating. So double, single, double, single, double, single, double, single, double. And that's your layout. Now to start wiring your input line, you're going to start by placing a wool there, a note block, and then this is where your lever is going to be. So out from that note block, you place an observer block, up one and over for that, wool block there, observer there, lamp here, block there, observer there, and some slabs going up, or 4 blocks here. An observer facing downwards, lamp here, and then an observer facing there. And then there's dust on all of those blocks. And a target block there. Now, so from this direction, we have 2 wool there, a lamp, 2 more wool, slab, block, and then we go up. Observer facing that way, slab here, another slab, and then an observer facing that way, another slab, block here, slab here with a rail on top, and a lamp here. And now place dust on all of those. Target block there, slab there, and dust there. Now you should find when you flick the lever, all of the singles extend instantly. Now to start wiring the door, I'm going to start with this bottom left corner here. So we start by placing, just use some obsidian to block it so that it doesn't push up. We want a block there with a repeater, a observer coming out from that observer there, 2-tick repeater on top, and a block there to power it. So this repeater will power this at 4 game ticks on the closing, and this observer will keep it on for an extra 2 game ticks. You'll see that happen here. I'll also grab that block. And for the final pulse, just place an observer there. Now for this this double here, we need 2 observers like that. But this will only work on the opening. On the closing, we want it to be a little bit later. So we refire that observer with a block there, repeater, sticky piston, and target. And what this will do is when this target extends, this dust will change states. It'll redirect like that and update that observer. So you'll see that happen here. And to grab that block, we have a piston here, a piston there, with an observer there. Or wait, sorry, it's one block lower. Piston there, observer there with a piston there. And we want to keep this on when it's closed. That way, because otherwise these pistons would be powering at the same time, and that would make it unreliable. We need a block there. And this Zerotick may not look reliable because both of these observers are powering at the same time. But because this dust turns off before this one, this observer will power first and create a Zerotick. So you'll see that happen here. Created a Zerotick. And this last pulse will be done from the top. So that's about it for that corner. Now we're going to wire the bottom right corner. So we're going to start by placing two observers here, which is actually part of this corner. And then we're going to have a torch, a lamp, an observer, and a block. What this will do is this will power at 8 game ticks on the closing because the lamp will have to turn off. And then on the opening it'll just be 4 game ticks, which is exactly what we need. So then we place a block there, a repeater, and an observer. Now this will extend this over. A target here, a lamp, and 2 observers like that, which will do this on the closing and the final pulse on the opening. And now for the Zerotick, we have a sticky piston here with an observer block there so it can power this, an observer there with a repeater and a block, and a piston here. Now you might think that this Zerotick doesn't have enough bed for this to be a reliable chain at 2 game ticks, but because there's an air block at the top of the door, this will actually schedule in the tile tick phase instead of in the block event phase. That way this will attract first and then this will schedule the Zerotick in order to create the chain, which is actually a lot of the corners of the door do that. So you'll see that happen here. Also does the final pulse here because this re-extends there. So now we're going to finish off the door by building the top. But first we need to place an observer here, a block here, and a note block. And that will update that to push up after on the opening. Now to actually start with the top, we place a slab here, the dust, a target, a lamp, observer coming downwards, piston there, an observer there, which will do those. Then we have an observer there with a repeater. And we need a repeater so it has earlier priority than a pulse up there. 3-tick repeater there. A hopper here, observer, sticky piston, observer that way. 2 blocks there. A wool and a dust. And now what this will do is that on the opening, this dust will depower before this hopper, which will create a reliable Zerotick into that dust and do the chain. So first we're going to add 2 observers there, a block and a dust. And now if we block this off, this corner here should work. Yep. We also need a block there for that to depower. Ah, right, we were forgetting that observer, so it didn't update on the closing. There. That corner should work now. And now for the last bit of the door, I want to do this corner. So we remove that obsidian there. We place 2 blocks there with a repeater to power the double when it's extended there. an observer out from there, and then another observer there. Some more observers. Block, dust, piston facing this way, with an observer there. Sticky piston there with a redstone block. This will be for the 2 game tick chain here. The note block there, so this will detect and power out 2 game ticks, but then a little bit later in the tick, this redstone block will depower that piston there to create a chain. We place a rail here, an observer there, and a block there. And now, this dust could actually cause QC to that piston, but it's not a problem because this observer powers first because it's detecting an earlier dust than this observer is. So it'll always power this top one first because this note block is also solid powered there, so we don't have to worry about that being directional either. So now, one more observer here to do that, and that should be the whole door done, I believe. Yep, it looks like it works. Fill in the rest of the wall, and you have a completed fast 4x4 shutter door. Now that the door is done, you may want to connect it up to a better input. So in order to do that, you can power this with just a repeater. That works just fine. But if you want the input to be instant, you're going to need to have a sticky piston and a redstone block, and then 0 ticket there. Be careful not to place a dust there, because that torch will power it, and then it'll clock, and you'll have a very broken door. But just 0 ticking a redstone block there works. So that's about it for this video. If you like this door or this tutorial, feel free to like or subscribe. And as the end screen is popping up, I'll show a little GIF of this door running at decent speed.